Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Tszyu has overcome a massive cut on his cheek to dominate Denis Nurja, beating him in every single round over the course of 10 rounds. A dominant victory and in turn setting up a massive fight against Errol Spence for July. Before we talk about the fight, if you could all head down the bottom there, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave all your thoughts in the comments below. So, Tszyu drops Denis Nurja once in the 4th round on his way to a dominant 100-88 ×3 victory over Denis Nurja. It was very, very one-sided, and I guess when you watch a fight like this where Tszyu hurts him in the 4th round, is dominant from start to finish, doesn't drop a round, probably doesn't drop a minute in that fight, barely drops an exchange in that fight. Even the massive cut on his face was caused by an accidental headbutt. It's really hard to, get answers out of a fight like that. Of course, there's so many questions around Tszyu, where he's at in his career, what we can look forward to in the course of Tszyu's, next few years in world level boxing. And I think the questions are still there. I don't think any of them have been answered since that second Fundora fight. We saw him go 10 rounds with Anthony Velasquez, which was basically a sparring session. And today, another 10 rounds against Denis Nurja, pretty much a sparring session. It was just Tszyu dominance from start to finish. An opponent that really offered very little, not much activity, shelled up for most of that fight, was holding on for dear life. A bit different to the Anthony Velasquez one. Velasquez was running away. This guy just sort of stood there and was almost a punching bag for a lot of that fight. So those questions that you still have about Tszyu and, where he's at when it gets going hard, where is he at in these exchanges, the questions are still there. And depending on what type of Errol Spence we get in that fight in July, we're going to find out those answers, I do believe. If Errol Spence comes to fight, if this is the Errol Spence that we saw for much of his illustrious career, it's going to be a hell of a fight. And it's going to be a very, very tough test for Tszyu. But in terms of going into that fight, knowing what we have in Tszyu, yeah, it still hasn't been answered. In terms of today's fight, though, what things did I think Tszyu did well over the course of this fight? I thought the 1-2 was beautiful. Consistently, jab, bang, jab, bang, jab, bang. It was just consistent from start to finish in that fight. He's consistently spoken about this use of a jab. I didn't see much of it today. I thought the first 2 rounds, it was there, it was good, it was working, it kept out there probing. But in terms of a snappy, electric, consistent jab that just knocks your head back over the course of the fight, it's just not there. It was more sort of just left out there as a probing to set up that right hand, set up that lead hook, set up that hook to the body. It wasn't a consistent, dynamic jab that, he's sort of said that he's working on. So whether that was just because Denis Nurja was offering absolutely nothing and shelling up, so he didn't really have to use that snappy jab, it was more about trying to open the guard. I can see that as well, but I can see all the technical changes for Tim. I can, all right? The consistent working of that probing, the tapping, the angles, the movement, even in defense, the swaying instead of walking backwards. There's definitely changes there for Tszyu. Are these changes helping him? Are these changes going to make him a fighter that is going to win world titles? I'm still not sure. I didn't see anything today, nor did I see anything against Anthony Velasquez that can really tell me that, because number one, the opponents didn't come to fight. They came to shell up. They came to sabotage. They weren't exchanges. They weren't fights. So I don't know about that. I think Tszyu's mentality in these fights is changing. He's definitely calm. He's definitely, focused on using those technical aspects instead of just going and trying to knock his opponent out with one blow. But I think in turn to that, he's sort of ruined something that has made him, did make him a world title holder in the first place. And that was being able to sniff the blood and demolish your opponent. Because today, what I saw was Tszyu hurt his opponent early and then basically use it as a session to work on your skills, a sparring session. Just keep working, work those drills, all the things you've learned in training, let's apply them today in preparation for the next fight. And that's what we saw against Anthony Velasquez. It's what we saw today. It was just almost, let's put all the things we've learned into action, but let's not actually get rid of the guy. Let's get some good rounds here, 20 rounds instead of maybe 10 rounds. And what I thought was that was the game plan. It was work this opponent, keep the drills going, but then you hear him at the end say, I tried to get him out of there, I just couldn't. And that's what worried me a little bit. If he had said that was the plan, it was just to get rounds in, no problems. But the fact that he came in at the end and said, I tried to get him out of there and I couldn't, that does worry me, because that's sort of what Tszyu built his career on. And the fact that you had an opponent there that was ready for the taking from about round 3, round 4, was offering absolutely nothing and you couldn't get him out of there, it does raise a few questions. Is that because of your tactical changes? Is this because you're so scared of getting into that fight that something's going to come back at you, so you're not committing completely? Because most of those punches today, they were tap, 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 bang, tap, 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 instead of, this guy's hurt, I'm going to get him out of here, bang, bang, bang. So I do have a few questions about the Tszyu performance in terms of, shutting out an opponent and dominating him technically. I mean, we saw it today. Tszyu was all over him. It was one-sided. And I like some of the things I am seeing from Tszyu. I think he can apply this. I think if he can combine that old style of when the blood's there to be smelt, go for it. But also, work for it. Make it work. Use the technical aspects of your boxing fundamentals and apply that. But when your opponent's hurt, capitalize and get through him. Because there was a lot of that fight where Nurja was just shelled up right in front of him, and Tim was, doing a few uppercuts, doing the taps, ripping to the body, but there was only one shot with conviction out of about 10 where you're thinking, he's hurt. Can we have about 5 or 6 of these with a bit of conviction? Let's get this guy out of here. So there's still a lot of question marks, but he did what he had to do. He went in there today, he dominated him, went and fought Anthony Velasquez late last year, dominated him, sets up this big fight against Errol Spence. That is going to tell us, I think, a lot about Tszyu. Of course, we have to wait and see what Errol Spence is offering, because it's not a guarantee that what I saw against Bud Crawford for Errol Spence was dreadful from him. And look, you got to give credit to Bud Crawford. He's one of the greatest of all times, but that was a few years ago now, and we haven't seen Errol Spence since. So what he's going to offer in that fight, that has asterisks on it as well. If we see a very good Errol Spence, I'm talking 2020 sort of Errol Spence, maybe a little bit earlier, that sort of era of Errol Spence against Tszyu, and Tszyu's able to go into that fight, go into that fire fest, because it will be a brutal, hard fight, apply the fundamentals, but also apply them with conviction and win that fight, I think all the questions are answered. But right now, where I see Tszyu, reaching, your guess is as good as mine, because what I saw today was good fundamentals, but no conviction in the punches, and somebody that, couldn't get Denis Nurja. He said it himself, he couldn't get rid of Denis Nurja, and I didn't really rate Denis Nurja coming into this fight. I probably rate him less now after I saw the way he approached that fight, because like I said, he held on for dear life, didn't offer much. I really wanted to see Tszyu get him out of there. In terms of fundamentals, you can see the impact Pedro Diaz is having on him. Another camp, another 10 rounds here today. He's going to get better and better at applying those. But the real test for me is going to be Errol Spence, providing Errol Spence turns up. I'd love to hear what you guys think of that performance today. I think there is some stuff there to grab onto for Tszyu. I think he's calculated. I think he's composed. He's not letting the emotions overawe him. The fact that he got a big cut on the face and didn't let that, take his mind somewhere else was all positive things. I think the probing, the working with the jab, it wasn't there as much today, but I also think that's an impact of Nurja's fight today. There was some good things there, but still a lot of questions that need to be answered, and there's only one way to answer them, and that's get back in the ring and get back to work. Let's talk about Sam Goodman. He beat Rodrigo Ruiz 118 to 110, 116 to 112, 115 to 113. Unanimous for Sam Goodman. For me, I probably saw it 116, 112, probably closer to 118, 110 than I did 115, 113. I didn't think it was that close. Thought the opening few rounds were close. Rodrigo Ruiz landed a big shot early in that fight that, makes me question a little bit of Sam Goodman's chin. But apart from that, Sam Goodman was well in control of that fight. Technically, much more superior than Rodrigo Ruiz. And that was the defining factor in that fight. The technical ability of Sam Goodman, as well as the gas tank and the ability to go 12 rounds with him, he just outworked him, outshined him, and you can tell which guy has the pedigree in boxing, and that was Sam Goodman. But he did eat a few shots. Credit to Rodrigo Ruiz. He came, he fought, he brought the action and landed a few good shots, but you're almost comparing 2 or 3 good shots from Rodrigo Ruiz around to 15 to 20 of Sam Goodman, and for me, it always outweighs the guy with the activity, the guy with the front forward press. Gets it. There was a few rounds that he definitely snatched because he was landing big shots and they were big left hooks. But the later that fight went, the more in control Sam Goodman went. I actually thought for Sam Goodman, I actually think he needs to fight more like Brandon Figueroa. I always thought Sam Goodman was so good technically at boxing at range. What I saw today was every time he got in close and was fighting on the inside in the pocket with Rodrigo Ruiz, I saw a better Sam Goodman than I did at distance. So I think that's something Sam Goodman needs to consider, because I thought he looked exceptional on the inside. He's already good on the outside and at middle range, but I thought his best work was on the inside. So that could be an angle. We see it work. Brandon Figueroa just did it to Nick Ball. So I think, Sam Goodman, you looked really, really good on the inside. I'd seriously consider using that in more of your fights. All right, you are a good boxing fundamentally, but your work on the inside was really, really good. That's what I was most impressed about today. And Nelson Asafa-Solomona, he beat Jared Wallace in round 3. Terrible, terrible fight. Wallace, for me, won the first 2 rounds, got caught with one. I do question why that referee let the fight continue. I actually thought after that knockdown, Jared Wallace was done. He probably didn't need to take any more punishment. But Nelson Asafa-Solomona gets the victory, progresses to 2-0. He's facing off George Burgess. For boxing purists, you'd fucking hate it. For a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of fun, especially if you're an Aussie Rugby League fan, yeah, it's a bit of enjoyment, it's a little bit of fun, but today's fight wasn't that great. It was a little bit messy. Callum Peters, he stopped Delio Mazzino in round 2, dropped him twice. It was just dominance from Callum Peters. He needs a better opponent. Like, this guy was lucky to get out of the first round. I want to see better opponents for Callum Peters. He's got the amateur pedigree. All right, let's see the step ups. You don't need to get to 15-0 before you have step ups. For me, Callum Peters is well and truly there. He's had one fight that's gone a few rounds. Everything else is ending in the first and second round. I want to see Callum Peters work through rounds. And Paulo Acuso, Sweet Pea. Unfortunate for him, he drops his opponent, Ho, twice in the first round, and then Ho is finished with a sore knee or whatever the fuck happened in that fight. It was unfortunate for Paulo Acuso. He, again, another good amateur that needs a step up, good opponents, people that will test him over the course of a few rounds. Today's opponent got dominated in the first round and then pulls out. And realistically, Paulo Acuso might as well have stayed at home because he didn't get to learn anything today. He didn't get to be tested today. He didn't get to sharpen his skills today. So Paulo Acuso and Callum Peters, I want to see them get bigger and better opponents because we'll see them become the fighters that they can become because they are both very, very good fighters. All right, guys, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. A happy Easter to everybody. If you are new, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm out of here, guys. I'm going to go eat some chocolates and spend time with the family. I'm out of here, guys. See ya.